dinosaurs lived with man in the original creation. They were just big lizards, giant reptiles. They always lived with man. They did not live millions of years ago. And there's ample evidence throughout history that dinosaurs have lived with man, from Ica stones and cave drawings and all sorts of legends of dragons. But what about dinosaurs still alive? Could it be that there are a few of them still around? Most of the textbooks say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. Now just hold on a minute. They don't know that. In Job chapter 40, it describes an animal called Behemoth, and it says he lives under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens, the swamp. Well, the biggest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa, 55,000 square miles, bigger than the entire state of Arkansas, where our past president and her husband Bill came from. This was a big swamp, 55,000 square miles. And there have been many reports of people citing dinosaurs still living in that swamp. The Congo swamp was taken over by Belgium in 1885, up until 1960 when the communists liberated them. You know, the communists will liberate countries. They killed everybody and said, okay, you're free now. But from early 1700s, actually, when the missionaries went into that swamp, they reported strange animals, like dinosaurs. This article appeared in the New York Herald in 1910. After some explorers came back from Africa, they said there could be dinosaurs still alive in the swamp in Africa. This article appeared in the Saturday Evening Post, 1948. There could be dinosaurs still living. In 1980, Roy Mackal went there and reported dinosaurs still living. A South African big game hunter returned from a trip to Angola and announced to the Cape Town newspaper that there was an animal of large dimensions, the description of which could only fit a dinosaur. The natives called it the Chippewa. Over in Central African Republic, they have a different name for it, Nguri, depending on their language, of course. Roy Mackal went there in 1980. He's University of Chicago microbiology professor. He's now retired, lives in California. He went back in 81 and spent $250,000 on the expedition. He came out saying, folks, there are dinosaurs still living. He wrote a book about it, The Living Dinosaur, in search of Mokele Mbembe. They say the swamp is the most miserable place in the world. Mosquitoes land on you at the rate of about 1,000 per hour the entire time you're there. Relentless attack of mosquitoes, swarming around you like dust. The natives report an animal called Mahamba, which is a crocodile that gets up to 50 feet long. When Dr. Mackal showed them a picture of an Apatosaurus, they said, oh, that's a Mokele Mbembe. Dr. Mackal said, fellas, that's a dinosaur. They've been dead for 70 million years. The natives said, we're sorry, we didn't know about that. See, we've never been to America to learn about evolution. All we know is we see them out there in the swamp once in a while. Now, they're not very big. They're about 20 feet long, nose to tail. It's a lot smaller than the fossils we find of them, but they're still the same kind of creature, a dinosaur. The natives report that these animals live underwater. They are very rarely seen. Even the folks who live there very rarely see them because they're active at night, and the natives do not go out at night. They're scared enough to go out in the daytime in that swamp over there. But these animals are active at night, generally, though sometimes they're seen early in the morning. They live underwater. They stick their necks out and get plants along the side of the river called the molombo plant. That seems to be their favorite food. Here's a picture of Dr. Mackal showing a dinosaur footprint where they came out of the water on shore to get more of these molombo plants. Missionary Eugene Thomas was in the swamp for 42 years. Here's his phone number in Ohio. He's retired now. He said he had 2 pygmies in his church that helped kill and eat one of these creatures in the late 50s. Dinosaurs still alive? Marcelina Agnagna is a biologist from the Congo. He went into the swamp and said, man, I saw one myself, and there's what it looked like. He drew a sketch on the chalkboard. Dinosaur still alive. There have been many reports in this swamp of people citing these creatures. There's a World Explorer magazine that has a lot of articles about people who go into the swamp to see dinosaurs still living. They say the humidity is terrible, and most of your equipment will be destroyed very quickly by the high humidity. It's very difficult. It's hard enough just to survive going through the swamp. I mean, there are no highways anywhere and no 911. Well, you can call, but nobody's going to answer. They say you can average about 1 mile per hour traveling through this swamp. If I told you you had to survey the entire state of Arkansas at 1 mile per hour, you better bring a lunch. They're going to be there a while. They describe this creature as having a long neck and a small head. Apatosaurus. One group got an audio tape of it making a roaring sound, sort of like a gecko lizard makes when its skin flaps out on its throat, and it flaps back. They got 5 minutes of this roaring sound. I've got a tape of it at home somewhere. I haven't been able to locate it for a while. But here's an article from the Boston Herald about people going to the African swamp to look for a living dinosaur. There have been just many, many expeditions into there. Cryptozoology.st is a website about creatures still living. The natives say these animals live in caves or underwater, and they're very rarely seen. You get to see them maybe once in a while. William Gibbons has been to the swamp 4 times. He and I wrote this book together, Claws, Jaws, and Dinosaurs, a book for junior high age about dinosaurs still living. Interesting. He said in one swamp they call it Lakila Mbembe. Here's what William Gibbons said. According to our guide, Pierre Sima, we were the first white men to actually penetrate the forest and swamps bordering the Boomba River. Our informants, almost all of them Baka pygmies, with the exception of one elderly Muslim Cameroonian, are perfectly familiar with all the known and unknown animals of the forest and swamps. While they do not regard Lokela Mbembe as being an unusual animal, they do fear the creature because of its ferocity in attacking hippos, elephants, and even crocodiles. The animal appears to be completely intolerant of any other large creature that shares the river and controls large stretches of the river, particularly those areas where its food supply is present. And call William Gibbons, he's been there 4 times. They have different names for this creature depending on their local language. Missionary Cal Bombay, he works for the 100 Huntley Street in Toronto, Canada, said he was a missionary in the Kenya part of Africa for years, and he and his wife saw one of these creatures, but the plates on the back were bigger. Down in the Amazon jungle in South America, they've got a huge swamp down there. Amazon jungle is known, of course, for its high humidity and tremendous plant growth. Back in 1907, Colonel Fawcett from the British Army went down there to survey the boundary between Peru and Brazil. He was an officer in the Royal Engineers, and everybody said he's a meticulous recorder of facts. He went to the Beni swamps and reported sighting a Diplodocus. This is 1907, not 70 million years ago. The natives said, oh yeah, that's the creature that lives out in the swamp, you know, don't go near him. His son, Brian Fawcett, made pictures, a sketch here, of the footprints that they found on the side of the river. Large, 3-toed saurian, dinosaur, footprints. Could there be some still around? In 1883, this article appeared in Scientific American, before they started censoring out anything that goes against the evolution theory. Here's the article from 1883. It is 12 meters long from snout to the point of its tail, which latter is flattened. Found this giant animal. Here's the article, Scientific American. It said the Brazilian ministers at La Paz, Bolivia, had remitted to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Rio photographs of drawings of an extraordinary saurian killed on the Beni after receiving 36 balls. By order of the President of Bolivia, the dried body, which had been preserved in Asuncion, was sent to La Paz. It's 12 meters long from snout to the point of the tail, which latter is flattened, besides the anterior head. Describes the creature here. The heads look like a dog. They said it had 3 look-like formed heads. Nobody knew for sure what they meant by that, but that's maybe in translation. They said the legs and belly and lower part of the throat appeared defended by a kind of scale armor, and all the back is protected by a still thicker and double cuirass, starting from behind the ears of the anterior head and continuing to the tail. The neck is long and the belly large and almost dragging on the ground. Professor Gilvetti, who examined the beast, thinks it is not a monster, but a member of a rare and almost lost species, as the Indians in some parts of Bolivia use small earthen vases of identical shape and probably copied from nature. Dinosaurs still alive? Snakes down there get pretty big, I know that. Here's a picture of a snake that swallowed a native who fell asleep on the